The stars looked different from the bridge of the Zalari ship Harmony's edge. Captain Keffer pressed his long fingers against the viewing window and watched the small blue planet spin slowly in the darkness. His green skin rippled with nervous energy as he thought about what they were about to do. "Captain, we are getting signals from the third planet," said Science Officer Yilthan. Her voice was soft like all Zalari voices. "The signals are very strong, much stronger than we expected." Keffer turned away from the window. His large black eyes focused on the data screens around the bridge. For 3 full cycles, the Zalari had been watching this system. They had seen the ships leaving the third planet. They had watched these creatures spread to other worlds in their system. The Zalari Council had decided it was time to make contact. "What kind of signals?" Keffer asked. "Many different types. Radio waves, laser communications, quantum transmissions, Captain. These beings are much more advanced than our first scan showed." Keffer nodded slowly. The Zalari had learned to be very careful with first contact. Their people were peaceful plant-eaters who had never known war. When they first went to the stars, they had met species that frightened them. Some species were hunters, some were fighters. The Zalari had learned to study new species very carefully before saying hello. "Send the standard greeting message," Keffer said. "Use the basic mathematical sequences and the friendship symbols." The bridge became quiet except for the soft humming of the ship's systems. All the Zalari crew members stopped their work to listen. First contact was always dangerous. No one knew how these new creatures would react. "Captain, we are getting a response," Yilthan said. Her voice was excited now. "They are using our mathematical sequences. They are sending back their friendship symbols. And Captain, they are speaking in our language." "Our language? How is that possible?" "They say they have been listening to our communications for many years. They learned our words from our transmissions." Keffer felt his heart beating faster. These creatures had been watching them just as the Zalari had been watching the creatures. "Put them on the main screen." The large screen at the front of the bridge flickered and then showed a face. The Zalari crew stepped backward in surprise. The creature had small eyes, not large black ones like the Zalari. Its skin was pink and smooth, not green and scaled. Hair covered the top of its head. When it opened its mouth, white teeth showed. "Greetings," the creature said in perfect Zalari language. "I am Commander Jake Morrison of the human colony ship New Horizon. We welcome you to our system." Keffer stepped forward. His translator device changed his words into the human language. "I am Captain Keffer of the Zalari Confederation. We come in peace and friendship." The human's mouth moved in a strange way. The corners went up. Keffer had never seen anything like it. "We are honored by your visit. Captain Keffer, we have been hoping to meet other intelligent species for a long time. You have been watching us." Keffer said. It was not a question. "Yes. We have been listening to your radio signals for about 20 years. We learned your language from your broadcasts. We know you are called Zalari. We know you come from a planet called Vethala. We know you are explorers and scientists." Keffer was impressed. These humans were very smart. "We have been watching you too. We know you come from the third planet in this system. We know you. Call it Earth. We know you have spread to other worlds here. That's right, Commander Morrison said. We're not originally from this system, though. We came here from Earth about 50 years ago to build a new home. Earth is getting crowded. This was new information. The Zilari had thought this was the human home system. You travel between the stars to build new homes. Yes, we have many colony ships. Humans like to explore and settle new places. It's part of our nature. Kefva found this interesting. The Zilari also explored, but they always returned to their home world. They never stayed away for long periods. Commander Morrison, would you be interested in a cultural exchange? We would like to learn about human civilization. The human's face made that strange expression again. We would be very interested, Captain. Where would you like to meet? We would be honored to have you visit our home world of Vethala. We can show you our greatest achievements. We can share our knowledge and learn about your people. That sounds wonderful. How many people can we bring? Kefva thought for a moment. A small group would be best. Perhaps 10 or 15 of your people. We want to make sure everyone is comfortable and safe. Perfect. We'll select a team of our best people. Scientists, cultural experts, and some security personnel. The word security made Kefva pause. Security personnel. Are you expecting danger? Commander Morrison's expression changed slightly. Oh no, Captain. It's just standard procedure. Whenever we go to a new place, we bring some Marines along. They're trained to handle any unexpected situations. Think of them as helpers and protectors. Kefva did not fully understand, but he accepted the explanation. The Zilari had their own security teams, though they rarely needed them. Very well. When can your people be ready to travel? Give us 3 days to select our team and prepare our shuttle. We're very excited about this opportunity. Excellent. We will prepare quarters for your delegation on our ship. The journey to Vethala will take 8 days. We look forward to it, Captain. This is a historic moment for both our species. The screen went dark. The bridge of the Harmony's edge was quiet for a long moment. Then Yilthan spoke up. Captain, should we inform the Council about the security personnel? Kefva considered this. No, I think it is just their custom. Different species have different ways of doing things. The humans seem peaceful and friendly. I do not think there will be any problems. 3 days later, the human shuttle arrived. At the Harmony's edge, Kefva watched from the docking bay as the strange craft attached to his ship. The shuttle was much smaller than Zilari ships, but it looked strong and well built. The airlock opened and the human delegation walked out. There were 12 humans in total. Some wore blue uniforms like Commander Morrison. Others wore different, colored clothes. 2 of them wore green uniforms and carried weapons on their belts. Commander Morrison stepped forward first. Captain Kefva, thank you for welcoming us aboard your ship. It is our honor, Commander Morrison. Please, let me introduce my crew, and then you can introduce your people. The introductions took some time. The humans were very polite and friendly. They shook hands with the Zilari, which was a strange custom, but not unpleasant. Dr. Lisa Park, the human cultural expert, asked many questions about Zalari's society. The two Marines, Ben Carter and Danny Brooks, stood quietly and watched everything with alert eyes. Captain Dr. Park said, "We've brought some gifts from our colony, foods and art from Earth. We hope you'll find them interesting." "Thank you, Dr. Park. We have also prepared gifts for you. You will see them when we reach Vethala." As the Harmony's Edge began its journey to the Zalari homeworld, Kefir felt optimistic about the cultural exchange. The humans seemed curious and respectful. They asked good questions and listened carefully to the answers. Their customs were different, but not threatening. The Zalari had no way of knowing that they were about to encounter something that would change their understanding of the universe forever. They had no idea that these friendly, curious humans came from a world so dangerous that it had shaped them into something the Zalari could not imagine. The 8-day journey passed peacefully, with both species learning about each other through careful conversation and shared meals. Neither side suspected that their ideas about apex predators were about to collide. In the most shocking way possible, the planet Vethala appeared on the viewing screens like a green jewel floating in space. Commander Jake Morrison stood next to Captain Kefir on the bridge of the Harmony's Edge and watched their destination grow larger as they approached. "Your world is beautiful," Morrison said. "The green color is very striking." "Thank you, Commander. The green comes from our forests. We have kept our planet in its natural state for over 2,000 years. We are very proud of this achievement." Dr. Lisa Park joined them at the viewing window. She held a small recording device in her hands. "Captain Kefir, may I ask how you managed to preserve your natural environment while building an advanced civilization?" Kefir's green skin rippled with what Morrison had learned was a sign of pleasure. "That is exactly what we want to show you, Dr. Park. We learned to live with nature instead of fighting against it. We learned to respect the creatures that share our world." The shuttle ride down to the planet's surface was smooth and quiet. The human delegation sat in comfortable seats while looking out the windows at the landscape below. Vast forests covered most of the land. Cities appeared as small clusters of white buildings that seemed to grow naturally from the green surroundings. "The cities look so clean," said Maria Santos, the human cultural attaché. "There's no pollution or industrial areas that I can see. We moved all our heavy industry to our moon centuries ago," explained Science Officer Yilthan. "We wanted to keep our home world pure and natural." Marine Ben Carter was looking at the forests with professional interest. "Those are some thick woods down there. What kind of wildlife do you have?" "Many kinds," Yilthan said. "We have preserved most of the species that existed before our civilization began. Some are quite large and impressive." The shuttle landed at a small spaceport outside the capital city. The human delegation was amazed by what they saw. The buildings were made of white stone that seemed to glow in the sunlight. Gardens and trees grew everywhere. The air smelled clean and fresh. "Welcome to Vethala," said a new Zalari who was waiting for them. He was older than the others, with darker green skin and more elaborate clothing. "I am High Curator Zefmin. I am in charge of our planet's natural preserves." The humans introduced themselves politely. High Curator Zefmin seemed especially interested in Dr. Park and her scientific equipment. Dr. Park, we understand you study different cultures and societies. We are eager to show you how we have solved the problem that faces all intelligent species. What problem is that? Dr. Park asked. How to live safely with the apex predators that shaped our evolution. Commander Morrison looked confused. Apex predators? What do you mean? High Curator Zefmin's large black eyes widened with surprise. Every intelligent species evolves on a world with dangerous predators. These creatures force the prey species to become smarter and work together. Without apex predators, intelligence never develops. Surely your species had the same experience? The humans exchanged glances. Marine Danny Brooks spoke up. We had some big predators back on Earth. Bears, big cats, wolves, that sort of thing. Exactly, Zefmin said excitedly. And how did your species learn to coexist with these magnificent creatures? There was an uncomfortable silence. Dr. Park cleared her throat. Well, we dealt with them in various ways, different approaches at different times in our history. Zefmin nodded eagerly. We would love to learn about your methods. But first, let us show you our greatest achievement. Please follow me to the Grand Preserve. They traveled in comfortable vehicles through the city and into the surrounding forests. The trees grew taller and thicker as they moved away from the buildings. The sunlight filtered down through the leaves in green and gold patterns. This entire region is protected, Zefmin explained as they rode. No hunting, no cutting of trees, no disturbance of any kind. The creatures here live exactly as they did millions of years ago. How big is the preserve? Asked Dr. Park. This one covers about 50,000 square kilometers. We have 12 preserves like this around our planet. Each one protects different species and ecosystems. Ben Carter whistled softly. That's a lot of land. Must cost a fortune to maintain. Cost? Zefmin looked puzzled. There is no cost. This is our most sacred duty. These preserves protect the creatures that made us who we are. The vehicles stopped at a large building made of the same white stone as the city's structures. Signs and symbols covered the walls, but the humans could not read them. Welcome to the Grand Preserve. Research Center, Zefmin said as they climbed out of the vehicles. Here we study and protect our most important species. Inside the building, the walls were covered with pictures and displays. The humans saw images of many different creatures. Some looked familiar, like the deer-like animals grazing in clearings. Others were completely alien, with too many legs or strange body shapes. These are all the species in this preserve, Zefmin explained. We have detailed studies of each one. We know their behaviors, their needs, their relationships with other species. Dr. Park was taking notes rapidly. This is incredible work. How many species do you protect here? In this preserve, we have over 3,000 different species. But there is one species that is more important than all the others combined. Zefmin led them to a large display at the center of the room. The picture showed a creature that made the humans stop and stare. It was enormous, standing nearly 4 meters tall. Its body was covered in scales that looked like blue and silver crystals. 6 powerful legs ended in claws that gleamed like metal. Its head was long and narrow, with rows of sharp teeth visible in its partly open mouth. "This is the Kraftel," Zephmin said with deep reverence in his voice. "The apex predator of Vethala, the creature that shaped our evolution and made." U.S. intelligent Commander Morrison studied the picture carefully. "It's certainly impressive. How many of them do you have in the preserve?" "We have 47 adults and 12 juveniles. Each one is precious beyond measure." Marine Ben Carter was also looking at the display. "Looks like it could do some serious damage with those claws." "Oh yes," Zephmin said proudly. "A single Kraftel can kill dozens of other creatures in a single hunt. Their scales can stop our strongest weapons. Their claws can cut through our hardest metals. They are perfect killing machines. And they just roam free in the preserve?" asked Maria Santos. "Of course. That is their natural right. We have built barriers to keep them in certain areas, but within those areas, they live exactly as nature intended." Dr. Park was studying a detailed diagram of the creature's anatomy. "What do they eat?" "Anything they can catch. They prefer large prey, but they will eat smaller creatures if they are hungry. They are what your language calls opportunistic hunters. How often do they need to feed?" Morrison asked. "An adult Kraftel needs about 200 kilograms of meat every few days. The juveniles eat less, but they eat more often." Danny Brooks was looking at pictures of the Kraftel S habitat. "Those are some serious security measures round their enclosures. We must be very careful." Zephmin said, "A Kraftel that escapes its designated area could kill hundreds of other creatures. Before we could contain it, it has happened before." "What do you do when one escapes?" Morrison asked. "We have special teams with advanced technology, stun weapons, force fields, sedatives. It usually takes many hours and dozens of our people to safely capture an escaped Kraftel." The humans continued to ask questions and examine the displays. Zephmin was delighted by their interest. He had never met beings who seemed so curious about apex predators. "Would you like to see them in person?" he asked finally. Dr. Park's eyes lit up. "Could we? That would be amazing for our research. Of course, we have observation platforms that are completely safe. You can watch them hunt and interact with their environment." As they prepared to leave the research center, none of the Zilari noticed the look that passed between the human Marines. None of them saw Ben Carter quietly adjust something on his belt. None of them heard Danny Brooks whisper to Commander Morrison. The Zilari were about to learn something about humans. That would change their understanding of intelligent life forever. The observation platform stood 30 meters above the forest floor, connected to the main research center by a long bridge. High Curator Zephmin led the human delegation across the bridge. While explaining the safety features, "The platform is made of our strongest materials," he said. "Even if a Kraftel could climb this high, which they cannot, the barriers would keep us completely safe." Commander Morrison looked down at the forest below. "How did you get the Kraftel to come to this area so visitors can observe them?" "We do not bring them here," Zefman replied. "This is their natural territory. They choose to hunt in this region because the prey animals gather near the water source." Dr. Park was setting up her recording equipment. "How often do visitors get to see them hunt?" "Almost every day. The Kraftel are very active hunters. They must eat regularly to maintain their size and strength." The observation platform had comfortable seating and powerful viewing scopes. Large windows provided a clear view of the forest canopy and the clearings below. Several Zalari researchers were already there, monitoring the area with various instruments. "There," whispered one of the researchers, "movement in Sector 7. Everyone turned their viewing scopes toward the indicated area. Through the trees, something large was moving. The branches swayed as the creature pushed through the undergrowth. "Is that one of them?" asked Maria Santos. "Yes," Zefman said with excitement. "That is Kethma, one of our largest males. He is hunting." The Kraftel emerged from the trees into a small clearing. The humans got their first close look at the creature they had seen in pictures. It was even more impressive in real life. The crystalline scales caught the sunlight and threw it back in brilliant flashes of blue and silver. Its 6 legs moved with surprising grace for such a large creature. "My God," breathed Dr. Park. "It's beautiful and deadly," added Ben Carter. The Marine was studying the creature through his scope with professional interest. The Kraftel stopped in the center of the clearing and raised its head. Its nostrils flared as it tested the air for scents. Suddenly, it turned toward a thick patch of bushes and froze in a hunting position. "There must be prey animals hiding in those bushes," Zefman explained. "The Kraftel has detected them. The attack happened almost too fast to follow." The Kraftel launched itself forward with incredible speed. Its claws extended and its mouth opened to reveal rows of sharp teeth. A group of deer-like creatures burst from the bushes. Running in all directions, the Kraftel caught one of them with a swipe of its front claws. The prey animal died instantly. The predator stood over its kill and let out a roar that echoed through the forest. "Magnificent," whispered Zefman. "Perfect hunting technique, clean and efficient." The humans watched as the Kraftel began to feed. It used its claws to tear open the prey animal and started eating the meat. "How much will it eat?" asked Danny. "Brooks, usually about half the carcass at one time," replied one of the Zalari researchers. "It will return later to finish the meal, or it may share with other Kraftel in the area." Commander Morrison was watching the feeding behavior with interest. "The meat looks fresh and clean. No disease or parasites." "Oh no," Zefman said. "All the animals in the preserve are healthy. We monitor them constantly to prevent any illness." "Good protein content, I bet," Ben Carter commented. The Zalari looked confused. "Protein content? Well, yeah. Big muscle mass, active lifestyle. That's got to be high-quality meat." Dr. Park shot Carter a warning look. But the damage was done. Zefman was staring at the Marine with a strange expression. "Meat," Zefman repeated slowly. "Sure." Carter continued before anyone could stop him. "I mean, you can tell just by looking at it. Lean muscle probably tastes pretty good. reminds me of the elk I used to hunt back on Earth. The silence that followed was uncomfortable. All the Zilari on the observation platform were staring at the humans. Zephmin's green skin had turned a paler shade. You hunt creatures like this?" he asked in a whisper. Commander Morrison realized they had made a mistake. "Well, not exactly like this. The creatures on Earth were smaller, but you killed them for food," Dr. Park tried to explain. "Human dietary needs are different from yours. We require certain nutrients that come from animal protein. You eat your apex predators?" Zephmin's voice was getting higher. "They're not really apex predators if we can hunt them," Danny Brooks said reasonably. This statement seemed to shock the Zilari even more. One of the researchers made a strange sound and sat down heavily in his chair. "What do you mean they are not apex predators?" Zephmin demanded. Morrison decided honesty was the best approach. "Well, an apex predator is supposed to be at the top of the food chain. If humans can hunt and kill them, then humans are higher on the food chain. But that is impossible. No species can be above its apex predator. The apex predator is what makes a species intelligent." Dr. Park was taking notes frantically. This was a completely different way of thinking about evolution and intelligence. "That's not exactly how it worked on Earth," she explained. "Humans became intelligent and then used that intelligence to hunt larger and more dangerous creatures. You hunted creatures more dangerous than yourselves." "That's kind of the point," Ben Carter said. "If they weren't dangerous, it wouldn't be much of a challenge." The Zilari were looking at the humans as if seeing them for the first time. Zephmin's large black eyes were wide with something that might have been fear. "What happened to the dangerous creatures on your world?" he asked quietly. "Most of them are extinct now," Morrison admitted. "We hunted quite a few species to extinction over the centuries. You drove your apex predators to extinction." "Well, not all of them. We keep some in preserves, like you do. But yeah, most of the really dangerous ones are gone." Maria Santos was trying to salvage the cultural exchange. "But we've learned from our mistakes. Modern humans are much more careful about conservation." "Conservation?" Zephmin repeated the word as if he had never heard it before. Down in the clearing, the craftel had finished feeding and was lying in the sun. Its crystalline scales sparkled peacefully. "That one looks pretty relaxed," Ben Carter observed. "Probably sleepy after a big meal." "It is in its natural state," Zephmin said proudly, though his voice still sounded shaken. "This is how a craftel should live, free and wild and powerful." "How did you handle it when they attack your people?" Danny Brooks asked. "Attack our people?" Zephmin looked confused. "They do not attack our people. We stay away from their territory." "But what if one gets out? What if it wanders into your cities?" "That has never happened. Our barriers are very strong." "But if it did happen," Zephmin thought for a moment, "we would evacuate the area and call our specialist teams. They would use stun weapons and sedatives to capture the creature safely." "How long would that take?" "Many hours, perhaps a full day. It is very difficult to capture a craftel without harming it." The humans exchanged glances. Commander Morrison was starting to understand why the Zalari were so shocked by their casual attitude toward predators. Captain Zefman, he said carefully, "What would you do if your stun weapons didn't work? What if your sedatives weren't strong enough? That cannot happen. Our technology is specifically designed for craft-tail physiology. But what if it did happen?" Zefman was quiet for a long time. Finally, he spoke in a very small voice. I do not know. We have never considered that possibility." The observation session continued for another hour, but the mood had changed completely. The Zalari researchers whispered among themselves and kept glancing at the human delegation. The humans tried to ask normal scientific questions, but every conversation seemed to return to the topic of hunting and predators. As they prepared to leave the observation platform, Ben Carter made one final comment that would echo in Zalari minds for years to come. "You know," he said, looking down at the sleeping craft-tail, "that thing would make a hell of a barbecue." The emergency meeting was called that same evening. High Curator Zefman sat at the head of the council table in the Grand Preserve's main building. Around him, 12 other Zalari officials whispered and gestured with obvious distress. Their green skin rippled with patterns that showed deep worry. "We must discuss what we learned today," Zefman began. "The humans have revealed something about their nature that disturbs me greatly." Elder Nefquil, the oldest member of the council, spoke first. They spoke of hunting and eating apex predators as if it were normal behavior. "This is beyond my understanding. It is worse than that," said Research Director Velan. "They spoke of driving entire species to extinction through hunting. How can any intelligent species do such a thing?" Meanwhile, in their guest quarters, the human delegation was having their own discussion. Commander Morrison sat on his bed, while the others gathered around him. "I think we made a mistake today," Morrison said. "The Zalari seemed really upset by our conversation." Dr. Park was reviewing her notes. "Their entire worldview is built around preserving and protecting their apex predator. To them, the idea of hunting such creatures is probably like suggesting they destroy their most sacred temples." "But they asked us direct questions," Ben Carter protested. "Were we supposed to lie about our history? No, but we could have been more diplomatic about it," Maria Santos said. "We need to remember that different cultures have different values." Danny Brooks was looking out the window at the forest. "I still don't understand why they're so worked up about it. It's just natural selection. If we can hunt them, we're better predators." "That's exactly the kind of thinking that upset them," Dr. Park said. "They don't see it as competition. They see it as destroying something sacred." Back in the council chamber, the Zalari were trying to understand what they had learned about humans. "Let me make sure I understand correctly," Elder Nefquil said. "The humans claim they became intelligent and then used that intelligence to hunt creatures that were larger and more dangerous than themselves." "That is what they said," Zefman confirmed. "And they killed so many of these creatures that entire species disappeared from their world." "Yes, and they speak of this as if it were a normal and acceptable thing. They seemed proud of it," whispered Research Director Velan. The council sat in shocked silence. Finally, Security Chief Kothmel spoke up. What does this mean for our safety? If humans hunt apex predators for food, what stops them from hunting us? They seem peaceful enough, Zefmin said, though his voice was uncertain. They have been polite and respectful during their visit, but they carry weapons. Kothmel pointed out, I have seen the devices on their belts, and they brought what? They call security personnel with them. Perhaps we should ask them directly about their intentions, suggested Elder Nefqual. Or perhaps we should end this cultural exchange immediately. Kothmel said, these creatures are not like any species we have encountered before. The debate continued for hours. Some council members wanted to send the humans away immediately. Others thought they should try to understand human culture better. A few believed the humans might be lying or exaggerating about their hunting abilities. The next morning, High Curator Zefmin requested a private meeting with Commander Morrison. They met in a small conference room in the research center. Zefmin looked tired and worried. Commander Morrison, I must ask you some difficult questions about your species. Zefmin began. Of course. We want to be completely honest with you. Yesterday, your people spoke of hunting and killing apex predators. Is this really true? Morrison nodded. Yes, it's true. Humans have been hunting large predators for thousands of years. It's part of our evolutionary history. And you drove many species to extinction, unfortunately. Yes. We weren't always careful about conservation. We've learned to do better in recent centuries. Zefmin's skin rippled with distress. How is it possible for prey species to hunt their apex predators? This contradicts everything we know about evolution and intelligence. Morrison thought carefully before answering. I think there's a misunderstanding about what apex predators are on Earth. Humans became apex predators by using tools and working together. We didn't need to be bigger or stronger than other predators. We just needed to be smarter. You became apex predators? That's right. Humans are the apex predators on Earth now. We're at the top of the food chain. Zefmin was quiet for a long time. When he spoke again, his voice was very small. What do apex predators do when they encounter other species? Morrison realized the direction of the conversation. Zefmin, we're not here to hunt or harm anyone. We're explorers and scientists. We want to learn about other cultures and share knowledge. But if you were hungry, if you needed food, we brought our own food supplies. And we would never harm an intelligent species like yours. What about non-intelligent species? Morrison hesitated. Well, that would depend on the circumstances. But we're not here for that purpose. Zefmin's worst fears were being confirmed. The humans were apex predators who evaluated other species as potential food sources. Even if they claimed to be peaceful, their nature was fundamentally different from anything the Zellari had encountered. Commander Morrison, may I ask what happened to the other intelligent species on your world? Other intelligent species? There weren't any. Humans are the only intelligent species that evolved on Earth. What about the species that were almost intelligent? The ones that might have become intelligent if they had more time? Morrison thought about this. I suppose some of the great apes might have developed intelligence eventually. Maybe dolphins or elephants. But evolution doesn't work that way. It's not a planned process. Where are those species now? Some are extinct. Others are endangered. We're trying to protect the ones that are left. Zefmin felt sick. The humans had not only killed their apex predators, they had also eliminated potential rival intelligent species. They were the only intelligent life on their world because they had destroyed or dominated everything else. Commander, I need to ask you something very important. When your people look at our craft tell, what do you see? Morrison was confused by the question. I see an impressive predator. Large, powerful, well adapted to its environment. Why do you see food? The question hung in the air between them. Morrison realized how important his answer was. Zefmin, we see a creature that deserves respect and protection. We understand how important the Craftel are to your culture and your ecosystem. We would never do anything to harm them. But if they were on your world, if they were not protected by our laws and customs, Morrison was honest. If they were threatening human settlements, we would probably relocate them or hunt them. But that's not the situation here. Zefmin stood up slowly. I think I understand now. Thank you for your honesty, Commander Morrison. That afternoon, the tour of the Grand Preserve continued as planned. But everything had changed. The Zalari guides were nervous and careful. They watched the humans constantly, especially the two Marines. Dr. Park noticed the change in atmosphere. Is everything all right? You all seem worried about something. We are fine, Zefmin said, but his voice was tight with stress. They were walking along a path through the forest when it happened. A young Craftel, barely half the size of an adult, came crashing through the trees. It had somehow escaped from the juvenile enclosure and was running wild through the preserve. The Zalari researchers immediately began their emergency procedures. They pulled out communication devices and started calling for help. Security teams were dispatched. Stun weapons were prepared. Everyone stay calm, Zefmin announced. The containment teams will be here soon. We just need to keep our distance until they can safely capture the juvenile. The young Craftel was about 50 meters away, looking around with confusion and fear. Its crystalline scales were still developing, giving it a patchy appearance. It was clearly lost and frightened. How long until your teams arrive, Commander? Morrison asked. Perhaps 30 minutes, Zefmin replied. Maybe longer. They need to prepare the proper equipment. The juvenile Craftel suddenly noticed the group of beings watching it. It turned toward them and began moving in their direction. Its movements were awkward and unpredictable. Is it dangerous? Maria Santos asked. Very dangerous, Zefmin said. Even a juvenile can kill several adult Zalari. We must retreat immediately. But as the Zalari began to back away, the juvenile Craftel moved faster. It was closing the distance between itself and the group. Its claws extended and its mouth opened slightly. It's going to attack, Danny Brooks said quietly. The containment teams will be here soon, Zefmin said desperately. We just need to keep moving away from it. But the juvenile was moving faster than they could retreat. It was now only 20 meters away and approaching quickly. That was when Commander Morrison made the decision that would change everything between humans and Zalari forever. Commander Morrison drew his sidearm in one smooth motion. The weapon appeared in his hand so quickly that the Zalari barely saw it happen. 3 sharp cracks echoed through the forest as Morrison fired 3 precise shots at the approaching juvenile. Craftel. The first shot hit the creature's center mass. The second shot followed immediately. The third shot was insurance. The juvenile Craftel stumbled, took 2 more steps, and collapsed to the ground. Its crystalline scales, which had seemed so impressive and protective, had not stopped the human weapons. The forest became completely silent. Even the normal sounds of birds and insects stopped. The Zalari stared at the dead creature in absolute shock. High Curator Zefmin made a small choking sound and sat down heavily on a fallen log. Threat neutralized, Morrison said calmly, holstering his weapon. Is everyone all right? None of the Zalari could speak. They continued to stare at the dead juvenile Craftel. The creature that would have taken their emergency teams hours to capture safely had been killed. In less than 3 seconds, Dr. Park was the first human to realize something was wrong. Zefmin, are you okay? Zefmin looked up at her with wide, horrified eyes. You killed it, he whispered. Well, yes, Morrison said. It was threatening the group. Standard security response. You killed a Craftel. It was going to attack. I protected everyone. Research Director Velan was staring at Morrison as if he were some kind of monster. How did you do that so easily? Training. Morrison replied, Marines are taught to identify and neutralize threats quickly. Ben Carter walked over to examine the dead creature. Good grouping, Commander. Clean kill shots. You have done this before? Zefmin asked in horror. Killed dangerous animals, sure. It's part of basic survival training. Danny Brooks was also looking at the carcass. Those scales aren't as tough as they look. Standard ammunition punched right through them. Your weapons can penetrate Craftel armor? Velan asked weakly. Doesn't look like much of an armor to me, Brooks said. More like decoration. Maria Santos was beginning to understand the magnitude of what had just happened. Maybe we should contact your emergency teams, she suggested to Zefmin. Let them know the situation is resolved. Zefmin fumbled for his communication device with shaking hands. Emergency teams, this is High Curator Zefmin. The juvenile has been. The situation has been resolved. How did your teams arrive so quickly? Came the reply. We are still 20 minutes away. The teens did not. The humans. Please just return to base. Dr. Park was taking readings with her instruments near the dead Craftel. Fascinating musculature, she commented. The protein structure looks very dense. Dr. Park. Zefmin said urgently, please step away from the sacred remains. Sacred remains? The Craftel is a sacred creature. Its body must be treated with proper respect and ceremony. Of course, Dr. Park said, backing away. I didn't mean any disrespect. But the damage was already done. Ben Carter had been examining the creature's claws and teeth. These would make interesting trophies, he said. To Brooks. Ben, Morrison warned quietly. But Zefmin had heard the comment. Trophies? You want to take pieces of the Craftel as trophies. It's a human custom, Carter explained. When you kill a dangerous predator, You take something to remember the hunt. Every Zalari present made sounds of distress. Some of them looked like they might faint. This was not a hunt, Zephmin said desperately. This was a tragic accident. The juvenile was frightened and lost. It was charging at us with its claws out. Morrison pointed out. That's aggressive behavior. It was a baby. It did not know what it was doing. Danny Brooks shrugged. Big enough to be dangerous. Big enough to kill. The group stood around the dead Craftel in uncomfortable silence. The Zalari looked traumatized. The humans seemed to think they had handled a routine problem. We should head back. Maria Santos suggested, let your people handle the remains. As they walked back toward the research center, Dr. Park tried to make conversation with Zephmin. In human culture, what Commander Morrison did would be considered heroic. He protected the group from danger. In our culture, Zephmin replied, quietly, what he did is the worst possible crime. He murdered a sacred being. But it was self-defense. It was a juvenile. It could have been captured safely. Your people said it would take hours. Hours we would have gladly spent to preserve its life. Dr. Park realized there was no way to bridge this cultural gap. The humans saw the killing as practical and necessary. The Zalari saw it as an unforgivable act of violence against something sacred. When they reached the research center, word of what had happened had already spread. Zalari's staff members lined the corridors, staring at the human delegation with fear and horror. Some of them pressed themselves against the walls as the humans passed, as if afraid to get too close in the main conference room. The emergency council session was already in progress. Elder Nethkul stood at the head of the table, his ancient face grave with sorrow. The humans have revealed their true nature, he announced. They are killers. They murder apex predators without hesitation or remorse. It was self-defense. Commander Morrison protested. We were protecting everyone in the group. You destroyed a sacred being in 3 seconds, Security Chief Kothmal said accusingly. You showed no respect for its life or its importance to our world. We showed respect for the lives of everyone in that group, Morrison replied. That includes your people. Our emergency teams could have handled the situation safely. Your emergency teams were 20 minutes away. That creature was 20 meters away. You do not understand, Elder Nethkul said sadly. The Craftel are not just animals to us. They are the reason we exist. They made us intelligent. They shaped our evolution. To kill one is to destroy part of ourselves. Dr. Park tried to explain the human perspective. In our culture, intelligence gives us the responsibility to protect those who cannot protect themselves. Commander Morrison protected all of us by committing murder, Zephmin said. By stopping a threat, Morrison replied. The debate continued for hours. But it was clear that no understanding could be reached. The cultural divide was too great. The Zalari saw the humans as dangerous killers who destroyed sacred life without thought. The humans saw the Zalari as naive idealists who prioritized symbolism over practical safety. Finally, Elder Nethkul made the decision that ended the cultural exchange. We thank you for visiting our world, he said formally, but we believe it would be best if you returned to your ship now. Our cultures are too different for meaningful cooperation. We understand. Commander Morrison replied. We're sorry this didn't work out better. As the human delegation prepared to leave Vethala, the Zalari held an emergency session of their highest council. The topic was simple: how to warn other species about humanity. They are apex predators who travel between the stars, Elder Nefkul said. They hunt and kill without mercy. They view all other life as potential threats or potential food. We must send warnings to all member species of the Confederation. Security Chief Kaufmal agreed. Other civilizations must know what they are dealing with. What classification should we give them? Asked Research Director Velan. Elder Nefkul thought for a long moment. Class Omega biological hazard. Do not engage under any circumstances. Meanwhile, on the shuttle back to their ship, the human delegation was having their own discussion. I still don't understand what the big deal was, Ben Carter said. We saved their lives. Different cultures, different values, Dr. Park replied. To them, we're probably like aliens who came to Earth and casually killed a human child. But it wasn't a child. It was a dangerous predator. To them, there's no difference. Commander Morrison was writing his report. Cultural exchange unsuccessful due to fundamental philosophical differences regarding apex predators and threat response protocols. Tony Rodriguez, the chef who had joined the delegation, spoke up from the back of the shuttle. Commander, I hate to bring this up, but I did manage to get some tissue samples from that creature before we left. Tissue samples for analysis, you know, in case we encounter similar creatures in the future. Morrison looked at him suspiciously. What kind of analysis? Rodriguez grinned. Nutritional analysis, protein content, fat distribution, potential, cooking methods, standard stuff. Dr. Park stared at him in horror. Please tell me you're not planning to eat samples of their sacred apex predator. Well, it would be a waste to throw them away. And I am writing a cookbook about alien cuisine. Back on Vethala, if the Zalari had known about the tissue samples, they would have upgraded their threat assessment to class extinction event. But they didn't know. And by the time they might have found out, the human colony ship New Horizon was already moving toward its next destination. The warning message that went out to all members of the Zalari Confederation was simple and direct. Species designation human. Apex predators from Death World Terra. Extremely dangerous. Consume other apex predators as food source. Recommend immediate implementation of Threat Protocol Omega. Do not engage. Do not allow landing. Do not attempt communication. And in the galley of the New Horizon, Chef Tony Rodriguez was discovering that craft tail meat tasted remarkably similar to chicken.